Thank you for the introduction. I'm sure I'm in between you and lunch because I think lunchtime is already started. But next 15 minutes, we're going to give you some idea that if you are a feed millers, if you have some kind of operation, if you can use an extruders, you can add some of the value. Therefore, that's what I'm going to talk about, how you can add values into the rice milling plus that some of the flour milling byproduct by using extrusion program. Byproduct of the cereal industry, we know that during processing, several byproducts are produced, and all of these products have some of the nutritional value, which sometimes would just get waste, and we can improve their quality of these byproducts, generate good revenue from that one. How do you do that? Most of that, if you know milling of the dried patties, I think everybody know the process. During processing, shallots and all that husk, and then if you can do the brown rice from there, you get a lot of bran, and this bran has a lot of nutritional values, and if we can process them immediately after that, we can add quite a few value. Rice bran is a good source of a very good rice bran oil. If you do not process that immediately, you will lose the quality because we create a lot of free fatty acid. Therefore, the goal here is as soon as you mill your rice, the bran actually go to the extruders, and then we can stabilize the rice bran. We want to stabilize because we want to destroy some of that anti-nutritional factors, and also we can stabilize it for rupturing the oil cell sacs to maximize the oil extraction from the rice bran that we can use. And this rice bran being used as a nutraceuticals or as a functional food in the US, in the Europe, in different food formulations, also being used for the animal feed as a source of protein, fat, and fiber. It has a very good value of the rice bran if you can stabilize that. To do that, there are different options available for us using an extruders. We have we call a low moisture extrusion process. We have a dry extrusion. We have a high shear, high temperature extrusion. All they will stabilize the rice bran. In the low moisture extrusion, basically, it is, basically what we do here, we create the pellet for the solvent extraction, and it is with the preconditioners. And this is just some of that data that we can use as how much energies and it required dryings. And then after that, it go to the extraction. Then we have a dry extruders that we can use. In this case, we don't add any water, any moisture. And this basically stabilizes the rice bran and of course mechanically. And we can create some kind of pellets or the powder that can be used. Then we also have a UPC, a universal pellet cooker. Without a preconditioners. Again, this is just some of the data, and it doesn't require any additional dryings. It requires the cooling, and basically we can use as a meal. We can also use the high shear, high temperature extrusion, and in this case also we rupture the oil cell within the rice bran, and then it's the twin screw extruders without preconditioner, or sometimes we use twin screw with preconditioner depending upon the applications. But as long as you have a processing device at your facility, you can stabilize the rice bran very easily. Then, of course, can be used for the extraction and different places. This is basically a flow diagrams where you have basically comes of your cleaning after removing the farm materials. You can grind it, extrude it, mechanically convey it, drying it, cool it, and then, of course, you do a solvent extraction or do the packaging of this rice bran. With the dry extrusion, also it's very similar, the same way you can do that as well. This is just to show you that it's the rice bran, and then of course you prepare it for the solvent extractions, and then you remove the solvents and you can get the crude oil, or in this case you can basically have a defatted rice bran also by desolventizing it. That can be used in different food application. This is an extruders in our pilot plant at Texas A&M, and in this case we are feeding it right here the rice brans, and this is the preconditioner, and this is the single screw extruders, and we are cooking with the steam injection. And then from here, just to show you that this is the rice brans going to fed into the extruder, and then it goes to the conveyor, and then it goes into the dryers to dry it. Then these pellets will be used to extract the oil from there. Therefore, you can add the value basically in your rice bran if you are in this feed milling business and you have a rice processing facility. And as soon as you process the rice, you can have a rice bran that can be stabilized immediately for either animal feeding or for the extraction. Also, we can, if you have an extruders, we can add the value to the broken rice as well. We can have, during processing, of course, so you can have quite a few broken rice. Traditionally, we have a rice which is basically pre-cooked. Sometimes they have different textures, firmness, stickiness, rehydration time, and these are not gelatinized. It takes at least 15 to 20 minutes in the boiling water. In the hot water, hydration is not possible. Cold water hydration is not possible. Must be boiled for the preparation. Whereas if you want to do a pre-cooked reformed rice, that will be, we use an extruder technology, the same we have earlier, and we can fully cook the gelatinize, and we can boil in 3 minutes rather than into 12-15 minutes. And also the 12 to 12 minutes total preparation time. We can do it hot water hydration is still not acceptable. Cold water is not. We can microwave it, and we can compare that to the traditional rice. In this case, we take a broken rice. Usually the broken rice are from the long grain rice or medium grain broken rice. We should not use the short grain rice. We can grind this one very fine, make sure that you have passed through different mesh, and that is your starting material, because that is the broken rice which has no value. You usually go to the animal feeding. We take this broken rice and we will grind it fine. We can add some colors in it if we want it. We can add some flavors if we want it. We can add some vitamins with some of the minerals to fortify it with different materials. We can add the salt and the flavors, and we can soften the texture and that. Therefore, we can have this rice flour where we can add quite a few additives into it. And then, of course, all we do it on the end, we change the die of the same extruders, and instead of just using a pelleting die where we pellet, no, we use a special die which is kind of rice shape, and we use an extruders. And then, of course, from here, this is the flow diagram going to be, this is your basically a blender where you mix that broken rice with some of the additives. You go to the extruders, and then from here it's going to go to the dryers and it dry there. What happened into the extruder, basically we have to use a low shear extruder. In this case, we will have a dry recipe added here. We will add some of the water, we add the steam. Of course, here we can add some of the additives if we want to add. This is the cooking zone will take place. This is the die and the knife, and then we will cut that one, which go into that. Then, of course, especially drying and tempering. There's special dryers for that, to have 2-pass dryers that will be used to dry these slowly. And then, of course, you have 1 pass of conveyor, which will basically cool the product and temper the product, and then you got the dry product right here. Some of the advantages of this rice, because you have, first of all, utilize your broken rice, cracked rice. You have formed into a basically various shape and sizes. Long grain rice kernels, you can make a medium grain rice kernel. Products are cooked, restructured, product with a rice-like texture, and that can be fortified for the improvement, for the improved nutrition, especially for that child nutrition program or some other program. You can add it. Preparation-wise, you can do it only 3 minutes boil, and 7 to 10 minutes hold time if you want to hold in that water. You can adjust the texture. If you add too much water, texture will get softer. Longer hold time is a more uniform hydration. In other words, you can create basically a rice analog from the broken rice which has no value, go to the animal feeding, and you can make it. And on the top of that is you can fortify them with vitamins and minerals, especially for the child nutrition program. You can add some flavors, cinnamon flavors. People add turmeric. You can add some pigments, colors to represent different rice. And then you can have a smaller shape, a longer shape, whatever diet you have it. Also, we use the same extruders to pre-cook the rice or the wheat flour. This is basically another advantage to add the value. We talk first basically rice bran stabilization, then we talk the broken rice. Now I'm talking about viscosity controlled flours. If you are in the baking industry, you can know that there's quite a few flours that we basically control, cook them for different filling, batters, breading, snacks, cereals. And this is just to show you that different samples of the starches, either from the rice or the wheat. You have a 50%, 58% cook. You can have a 83% cook. You can add 6% cook, depending upon what your applications are. And you can see how it behaves in the water. And then, of course, you can also see under the microscope how it behaves. That being used in different application. Therefore, basically, you can have one extruders. You can stabilize the rice bran. You can broken rice. You can make a new rice with that. You can pre-cook all your flours depending upon the application. And then also you can use it, it's the same extruder to make a pre-cooked pasta. In this case, there is traditional pasta, pre-cooked pasta, instant pasta. These are the characteristics we look for that. Traditional pasta basically is produced by low temperature, of course, extrusion. This is not starch, not really cooked or gelatinized, must be boiled for preparations. It's the hot water hydration, and then of course not acceptable. All that you have to boil it for a long time. Microwavable is limited situations. Whereas you can do a pre-cooked pasta where you produce a moderate temperature extrusion. You can fully cook it, gelatinize the starches, not necessary to boil it. You can just hot water 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you can soak in the water, cold water 20 to 60 minutes, and you can microwave it. This is the instant, of course, pasta. We all know that. That's basically where you don't necessarily just add the water into it, boil it, and then of course you can eat it. For the pre-cooked pasta, we have all the flours in that, your flour mill industries. We can add some processing aid like a monoglyceride, spray-dried fat, oil, some additives into it to make this pasta. We can use different flours. We have drums, we have semolina, hard wheat, soft wheat, other cereals. We can add some protein into it ourselves, soy flour concentrate or wheat gluten. And then, of course, these are some of the processing aid we add into it. In order to avoid the stickiness, we can add some monoglycerides, spray-dried fat, basically mixed very well with the dry materials. Oil, we can do that to soften the textures and other additives. And then, of course, these are different levels, how much you want to add it. We can add some of that colors as well as the flavors and vitamins and minerals in all the pasta to make it very nicely. And if you can see that this is a previously cooked method, it usually takes materials, preconditioning, cooking and all that will take it to you almost 2.5 to almost 5 hours to make this pasta. Whereas if you have an extruders, we can follow that one from here, and basically we can do it to reduce the time to 1 hour. Therefore, this is the advantage having an extruders, that where you can add the value to a pre-cooked pasta. And again, this is the flow diagram where the same thing is you have to have a blenders, you blend out your raw materials, go to the extruders, and it go to the dryers. In this case, you have a little more different setup for the extruders. Again, this is your dry recipe. There's the water injection. We have steam injections. Then we can add additives here. This is basically we can have some of the other additives here, feed added, steam added, cooking take place. Then we have vent here, which can release some of the pressure. And then, of course, we are farming it. And then we are here if we are cutting that one. Therefore, and then, of course, it goes to the dryers. And it's only that 2-pass dryer that we use it. Therefore, basically, these are some of the advantages. We can have better utilization of a wide range of raw materials. Basically, we have a different raw material which can be used with a combination or others depending upon your application. We can improve the product versatility. We can improve the ranges. We can make that microwavable soft wheat flours, other cereal grain as well. And it is a short drying time. Your requirements, retention time is less than ever. Temperature is around 80 degrees C, and humidity is 35 to 40 degrees. Now, to conclude that, just to give you an idea, if any of the flour mill industry or the flour millings can have added an extruders, you can get a lot of multiple benefit. You can basically, if you are in the rice business, you can stabilize the rice bran for extraction. If you are in, again, rice, you have broken rice, you can make it to a reformed rice. If not, then of course you can cook some of the wheat flours and other flour, the starches, to cook so that you can be used in the bakery industry, or you can basically add it to the pre-cooked pasta, or you can do it. Therefore, extreme cooking is a flexible tool that by using proper hardware processing technique can improve the quality attributes of the rice and flour milling industry. With that, I will be happy to answer any question you may have. Thank you.